I'm David Cotton. I'm a father, a brother, a son. I'm a retired U.S. Air Force Brigadier General, a former senior executive in the Department of Defense, a corporate vice president, and now a life coach. At the age of 59, I told my wife, my kids, and the world, I'm gay. Join me as I talk with others who've made this coming out journey late in life to become who they really are.
You're listening to Out Late with David.
My guest today attended the University of Wyoming at the same time as Matthew Shepard, the gay student who was beaten and tragically left for dead near Laramie in 1998. It was a hate crime that shook him to his core. 20 years later, he would come to understand why when he finally came out as gay to his own wife and children. My guest today is Iowa-based Finance and Marketing Director, Rich Rumsey. Well, it's good to see you, Rich. Thank you for taking time for this interview today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Just tell me about where you grew up in the community. What was that like?
Grew up on a farm. We had cattle and corn. Small town. We had about 1,500 people, I think. And it was a pretty conservative area that didn't have a lot of diversity.
So when you're growing up in that town, when did you start to have thoughts about your sexuality?
So looking back, I can remember around 5th grade. Some of it was kind of scary because I knew how, some of the folks around us would talk about people that were homosexual. I really just kind of masked it because I wanted to be part of the group and I wanted to be accepted by my friends and my family and those around me in the neighborhood.
Did anything shift when you got to high school?
Nothing really. I mean, I never really dated in high school. I had lots of female friends. I never dated anybody. I never dated until I was a freshman in college. And even then I only dated 2 women before I had met my wife. I always had thoughts about, that guy's really cute, or, I'm really attracted to that person for some reason. I think by the time I got to college, I had pushed it down so far that I just kind of forgot about that. And that's really honestly the way that it had been for the next 10 years after that. When I was at the University of Wyoming, my junior year is when Matthew Shepard died. And that was something that really hit hard.
How did the people on the campus react to Matthew Shepard's murder in October of 1998, I believe?
A lot of student activation, really kind of banding together, especially when all of the media storm hit. Because not only did it hit right when Matthew Shepard died, but then also for the trial. It was really hard to see that and live through it. Because I didn't really understand why it was hitting me so hard. Like why it was impacting me to my core. Other than just not understanding why people just can't accept others. That was kind of the biggest thing in my mind.
Did you understand why you were feeling this way?
I really didn't. I think by then I had completely pushed away any thoughts of.
So you were feeling something, but didn't connect it back to the thoughts you had when you were younger.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
Well, you said you met your future wife there.
Yep.
Get married while you're in college?
We got married right after I graduated from college. We moved to Iowa, and we got married about a year after I graduated from college. It was the thing that was expected of me was to go off to college and to find a wife and to get married and have your 2.5 kids and your picket fence. And it was the thing that was expected of me. And so that's what I did.
Well, when did you start to have thoughts that isn't the way that you were meant to be?
So when it was probably around, 2011 or so. And I was traveling a lot for work. And I would be in these hotel rooms and I'd be, bored at night. And by then I had the internet on my phone. I could pull things up and, put on some videos, and found myself very much focused on the men in the videos. And I couldn't, at first I was like, well, why is this? Like, what is going on? And then I kept noticing that and then eventually started watching gay porn. And I was like, this feels so right. It just felt, it felt like there was something there that I had been missing. And it wasn't only the porn itself, but it was the connection between men. Just that being able to, I never had close male friends growing up, because I was always afraid of not fitting in or something that kept me from being a friend to other men. And that connection and that closeness, even just getting a hug from another man, I had never really experienced before. And then seeing it, there was something in me that I was like, that's what I'm missing. That's what I need.
So when you started to have that feeling, what did that do?
It sent me into a really dark place. It made me feel like I was trapped almost. We had one daughter, the second one was on the way, and I was like, oh, what the hell am I going to do now? Because I can't do anything with this because I've got a wife and kids, and that's what I'm supposed to do. So I got to the point after probably 6 or 7 years where I wasn't sleeping anymore. I was getting maybe an hour or two of sleep a night. And that's when I finally realized that something had to happen. Like something, I knew at that point that I was gay. I'd really owned the fact that I was a gay man. And I was a gay man that was married to a wonderful woman, but I couldn't give her and my kids everything they needed because I wasn't being myself.
We'll find out what happened next in just a minute. If you'd like to learn more about coming out late in life, I recommend David Crystal's book, Married Men Coming Out, The Ultimate Guide to Becoming the Man You Were Born to Be. Crystal packs each chapter with helpful tips and potential scenarios to consider on your journey. The book is based upon his research and experiences of a married men's coming out group, real-world practical examples from those that have already traveled down the path. Again, the book is Married Men Coming Out, The Ultimate Guide to Becoming the Man You Were Born to Be. So, Rich, I know you were on the road a lot during this time. Did you use that opportunity to explore?
I had explored a little bit, especially with as much as I was traveling. I got on the apps, as much as it pains me to admit, but I did, step out of my marriage before I came out, and I know that caused a lot of hurt for everybody involved. But it really sent me into that darker space because I knew that I needed more out of life than what I was getting. I moved back to Iowa and I met another married man, and we started hanging out quite a bit. After about a year of that, I realized that I really needed this full time in my life. Like just having a friends with benefits was not going to cut it for me anymore. And I had come to the point where I knew that either I had to come out or there was a chance that I wouldn't be here tomorrow.
When you say you wouldn't be here tomorrow, what do you actually mean by that?
I actually mean that I had suicidal ideation during that period.
So what did you do when you're in that dark period? Because you're not there now, so
about February of 2019 is when I finally decided that I needed to reach out for therapy. And I found a horrible therapist. An absolutely horrible therapist. Even though his website and everything said they were LGBTQ friendly, he was not comfortable with the fact that I was married to a woman and I was wanting to come out as a gay man. It was a really bad experience, and it really turned me off to therapy. And I was like, well, now what do I do? I stopped and I didn't do therapy for a few months, and then finally found the most wonderful therapist that I still see today. Like she's amazing. In that time frame between these two therapists is when I finally came out to my wife. She had known that I wasn't sleeping. She knew that I was trying therapy. She knew that I was depressed, and I was like, I need to tell you why.
How did she react to that why when you told her?
I mean, it was obviously it was very painful for her. And
did she suspect anything?
I honestly don't know. I don't know if she did or not, but I knew that she had friends who were gay, probably the longest discussion that I've ever had with anybody in my life. And we both cried, we both laughed, and we knew that we could get through this together. And it was a few months later before we told the kids. My ex-wife and I are still great friends. We live 1.5 miles apart here in Iowa, and we see each other very often. And we made that promise that we would not put them in the middle. That it was nothing about them. It was nothing about my ex-wife. It was all about me finding who I am and wanting to be the best person that I can for them. And now we've worked through a lot of that, all that with them. And I think we're all in a much better place.
So did you and your ex-wife work together on the messaging and talking to the kids, or did you do it by yourself and with your thoughts?
I led most of that. We
But you were together?
Yeah, we did it together. We talked about some of the key points that we wanted to talk about, making sure that the kids are our focus. We still love each other. We still want to be friends. We still want to get along. We still want to do family things together. I led the discussion with them, but she was right there beside me.
Not everybody gets that opportunity to where they work in partnership with what will soon be their former spouse.
Exactly.
Family.
I've met, when I was in my really dark space, I could have swore that I was the only man on the entire planet that was married to a woman and was gay. I was absolutely convinced of that.
I know the feeling.
And then, I was scouring the websites, and I'm like, there's got to be others out there. There's got to be others out there. And that's when I found the Husbands Out to Wives group. And that really opened my eyes to see all of the other people that were out there and all the different ways that they had formed their families after coming out. And so that was a really great support. And I still have a large group of friends that I met through that process that I still talk to on a daily basis now.
And that's how I met you.
Including you, yes.
We were both online with the HOW group, Husbands Out to Wives, and found out, we're both like 20 miles from each other.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. So how important is it to find others and find that your story is not so unique? How did that impact you when you had that discovery?
I'd say that it was a turning point for me, because then I could have these conversations with others that had gone through this already. And I knew it wasn't going to be an easy journey, but I knew it was something that I had to do. And I had that support system there to help me with. I had mentioned that I never really had a lot of really close friends, especially close male friends. And this really provided that to me. Now, granted, most of them are virtual friends because I never see them, but there are a few of them that I went to Miami Pride with a group of them. I went to San Francisco with a group of them. So it's nice to have that connection, and having that support system, even if it was virtual, was vitally important to me.
Let me pause here to say that Husbands Out to Wives is a national support group for men who are married or in a committed relationship with a woman who have either come out or intend to come out to their wives or partners. To find out more, simply search for Husbands Out to Wives or visit how-support.org. Let's jump back to that conservative Colorado. What was it like there when Rich came out?
It's very mixed on the reaction. I've had family members that have unfriended me on Facebook. They won't talk to me. People that I would talk to on a weekly basis no longer text or call. So that's been kind of difficult. But then I've really focused on the concept of my chosen family and what I have now, and what's most important to me is my chosen family. I've got my kids, I have my ex-wife, I have friends like you, friends that I've met through the sports league that I belong to as well, and that has really been the support system that I need going forward.
So what else has been different for you after coming out?
So, I think coming to my own truth of who I am really helped me gain a lot of confidence in myself. I was always one of those people that was very quiet. I probably still am at times, but at work and those types of things, I'd be very quiet. I'd be the one in the room, not raising a ruckus or not pushing back on any decisions, in meetings, that kind of thing. I feel more confident about myself now, so I can voice my opinion more.
Why do you think that's the case?
I think it's the case just because I'm more comfortable in my own skin, just more comfortable being me, and that's helped me to really put myself out there in ways that I wouldn't have before, to be more open with people about my feelings, about my thoughts. I think the one thing about my coming out journey, I've become much more in tune with my feelings. I think that I've probably cried more in the last 5 years than I did in the first 30 or 40 years of my life. Just being able to understand, like recognize those feelings and process them, and that it's okay for men to have feelings. And
have you seen a change in others, maybe back to your family, that have changed?
Probably not. Not as much as I would like. I'd say that I'm probably a little bit more estranged from my family now, since coming out. But like I said, that chosen family is really the focus that I have at this point.
You're listening to Out Late with David.
As a life coach, I want everyone to have the same opportunity to live the life they desire. I'm committed to help you discover the passions in your life and authentic self. Together, we will shatter your limiting beliefs to unleash your authentic self. You will gain clarity on your values, purpose, and passions, and you will establish achievable goals aligned with your values. For a complimentary consultation to start your journey, you may contact me through my website, davidcottoncoaching.com. That's DAVIDCOTTON coaching.com. Now back to today's guest. So now that you're out and about, what's the world of dating and relationships? How did you take advantage of that now being your authentic self?
Yep.
And not holding yourself back?
Yeah. So, coming out during COVID, and really owning, my sexuality in a time where, you couldn't be near people and you shouldn't be touching, and 6 feet away, was really difficult for dating. And I definitely was not in a hurry to find anybody. I was more focused on friends and relationships and finding that chosen family. I did start dating a guy we were lasted about 3 months. And it felt good, but I knew that he wasn't the right person for me. And I stumbled across one night. I'm sitting, actually it was April Fool's Day, April Fool's Day 2021. I'm sitting at home on Scruff, and I find this guy. He pops up, and we start chatting, having a great conversation on Scruff, and we both mentioned that we like beer and that kind of thing. And so I was like, hey, we should meet up for a beer sometime. And he's like, his immediate response was like, how about tomorrow, 2:00? And I was like, whoa, easy, hang on a minute. And so I was like, well, sure, what do I have to lose, And here we are almost 2.5 years later, and we're engaged to be married.
Congratulations.
Thank you. He has been the light of my life. My kids love him. He's really become a part of our family. He moved in to my house about just over a year ago now. We got engaged in April, and his family is wonderful. He comes from a very large family, lots of brothers, sister, cousins, aunts, and uncles, and they have accepted me, arms open. And we've grown together in the last 2 years as well. Grown in who we are as individuals, and grown as who we are as a couple. And I really look forward to what the future holds for us.
And how does your family then react to him? Your daughters, your former spouse?
Yeah, no, my kids and my ex-wife, like, we all get along great. Like, the kids are with us half the time. We actually just went to Minnesota for a long weekend a few weeks ago. hung out at the lake for a few days, joking and laughing. And so it that has felt really good to me. And then he'll come to my kids' school activities. So the five of us, including my ex-wife, we'll hang out together. We'll go to dinner sometimes and do those types of things. And I know that not everybody in my situation has that, but I think I'm glad that we're at the point where we have moved beyond that, and can really heal ourselves and move forward with our lives.
That's beautiful, and you are so fortunate, because I too hear stories that it's the exact opposite, where families will not get back together, they won't accept. And so they lose something in their life, but they've got to do that to move forward, to be themselves. As you said,
Absolutely.
to be on the planet.
Exactly.
To be on the planet.
Exactly.
So did this affect your work life at all professionally?
So I was with a company. I never really came out there at all, because I'm not one to stand up and carry my rainbow flag down the street necessarily, but I'm not going to hide it either. If somebody was to ask me, but then I changed companies, and as I was changing, so David, my fiance, he actually applied to the same company that I did. And so I knew that I was getting the job, so I had to disclose this to HR. And I was a little worried, because I'm like, okay, I know that I have a job, but it's, I work in agriculture. It's a fairly conservative industry. I was like, I don't know how this is going to work. And it has been wonderful. We work in a small office up in Ames, and everybody has welcomed us arms open. He works in that office with me. And it's been a wonderful, wonderful experience, because I was very concerned about how, what my work life would be like.
How has coming out changed the way you look at the world and others?
So I think, growing up, I was very focused on what was in my very small community. And then going to college, kind of opened up my horizons and showed me that there was more to life than these 800 acres that you live on. And I think that since coming out has really just expanded that even more. There's so much richness in the world that I think that we lose if we just stay in our little bubble. I've made friends that are of different races. I've got friends that are trans. I've got friends that are non-binary. I've got, friends all over the country now that, while we have similar situations, we all have very different perspectives on life. And I think that's been a rich learning for me, is that, and something that I've tried to instill in my kids too, that everybody has a purpose and a reason to be here. And just that respect goes a long way.
What is the biggest takeaway from the experience you had coming out and accepting your own sexual orientation?
One of the biggest things is that, I had it in my head that I couldn't do this because I had kids. I couldn't come out because I had children. The thing that I've learned is that coming out was the best thing for my kids, because they get to see me as a whole person now. And I talk to people, I talk to some people on the How group, and they're like, oh, I can't come out because of my kids. I can't tell them. And I was like, no, you need to, because the world needs to know your full self. You can't be the best husband or wife or the best son or the best employee if you can't be your true self all the time. And so I think that's really the key learning that I've had there, is just being myself is the most important thing.
So what advice might you have for others who are struggling with their sexual identity and coming out?
I think the biggest thing is to know that you're not alone. There is somebody that has already gone through whatever situation that you're in. I can almost guarantee it. I had a friend that was questioning his sexuality. I didn't know this at the time, but he called the LGBTQ center in Denver and just asked them some random questions. Just called him up on the phone. They didn't know his name. They didn't know what he looked like. Completely anonymous. Just being able to talk to somebody. And I would highly encourage everyone, if you've got questions, to talk to somebody. Don't keep this inside. Unfortunately, that friend is no longer with us. But he wrestled with his sexuality to a point that he figured that he couldn't handle it, and he took his life. And I don't want that for anyone else in this world. There is a place here for all of us.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And there's actually a national suicide hotline that people can call.
Yep, 988.
988. And if you're a veteran, 9881. That'll get you to a professional. I'm sorry to hear about your friend.
Thank you.
That's good advice.
I think the work that you're doing is important because it gets these stories out there. And it helps people that are like me that thought that they were, completely alone, that they had nobody else to turn to, had no resources available. So things like this, even if I can help one person, that's the most important thing to me.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you, Rich, for taking the time today to tell your story. As you know, you're a really special friend. Once I found you and you found me, I really appreciated our check-ins with each other where we'd say, oh my God, I'm crying today more than I ever have before. As we're going through talking to our family and coming to acceptance of who we are.
Yep.
But I think we did okay.
Absolutely.
We're doing okay, I see my friend across the room from me, so I'm happy he's here. So thank you again for this today. And no doubt this is going to help somebody else.
Absolutely. That's my hope.
Thank you. Few events have galvanized and motivated the gay rights movement like the beating death of Wyoming college student Matthew Shepard. These kinds of shocking events make real the terror that gay people have felt for generations. For Rich, realizing a fellow student could be the victim of such a brutal hate crime likely had a deep impact on his life. Combine that with a lifetime of trying to fit into the perfect picture of what a man should be, it's no surprise that Rich, like so many others like him, would embark on a life that didn't fully fit. Rich and I became fast friends, crying and laughing as we shared our experiences coming out to family and friends. We check in on each other, aware that the lives that we had to this point would radically change. Rich's life today is a powerful example of what can be for someone who saw no positive future while growing up in a very conservative community and family, and then eventually climbing out to discover and embrace his true, authentic self. His story is one of hope. That's it for today. I'm David Cotton. Join me next time for Out Late with David.
To hear more episodes, visit outlatewithdavid.com. And to learn more about personal life coaching services, go to davidcottoncoaching.com.